And I told you of the Shabbat of the land on Mount Sinai, and I told you of the Jubilee years and the Shabbat of years. But the year thereof have I not told you, till ye enter the land which ye are to possess. And the land also shall guard its Shabbat while they dwell upon it, and they shall know the Jubilee year. Wherefore I have ordained you the year weeks and the years in the Jubilees. There are 49 Jubilees from the days of Adam until this day, and 1 week and 2 years, and there are yet 40 years to come for learning the commandments of Yahuwah, until they pass over into the land of Canaan, crossing the Jordan to the west.
Okay, Shalawam and blessings, everybody. Hope y'all having a blessed day. So, that one scripture that you just heard, Jubilees, chapter 50, verse 4, and they crossed the Jordan and went west into the land of Israel. So that was one of the main scriptures that actually caught my attention. Now, I know many people don't subscribe to the book of Jubilees, but however, I do subscribe to it. And you know that when you go back and you search the original text, the more Hebraic text, that you get a different meaning or different text, as far as in the way that it's written. So, and that text is saying that they went west. And I was like, hold up. It went west. All our life we was believed that the Israelites went east into the land. So I started researching a lot of those things. Even before this scripture, I was researching, where the true land of Israel is. And I used to be a believer of the fact that they went out of Egypt and went east. I used to subscribe to that. But however, new information came about, and I no longer actually believe that. I'm going to be going over a lot of things piece by piece. I'm not going to give you a lot of information at once because sometimes it's hard for people to grasp it if you give too much at one time. So this one is about the Niger River. So on my screen right here, I got a couple of maps that I'm going to go over and a couple of quotes from some historians, right? You've seen some of the maps in the preview. So let me point out something right quick. Let's go to this first map. And I'm going to point something out before we go any farther. Let's see. Now, where they say the river Nile is now, that's what I want to point out. Now, if we have an understanding, we understand the scriptures, right? It is said that when the Israelites, this is coming from the way that the Europeans have put it out there. They said that the Israelites went out of Egypt, crossed over the Nile River, then crossed the Red Sea, wandered around the wilderness for 40 years, and then they crossed the Jordan and went into the land of Israel. So I want to point out how that doesn't even make sense. Because according to the scriptures, the children of Israel wandered around the wilderness, not in our homeland, but outside of our homeland. They never went into the land of Israel. They wandered around the wilderness before they even stepped foot in the land. So they was in the wilderness of another land for 40 years, not in our land. So if they came out of Egypt, according to the scriptures, our land was all of the land between the Nile and the Euphrates, right? Let's read that in scripture right quick, because I want to point that out before we get started. I want you to keep that in your minds. Over here in Genesis chapter 15, 18. It says that in the same day, Yahuwah made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto your seed have I given this land from the river of Mizraim, which is Egypt, unto the great river, the river Perath, which is Euphrates. So I'm reading from the Sefer. That's why you're getting different texts. All right. So all the land in between, the river of Egypt, which is the Nile, to the Euphrates, is all about land. Now, if they came out of Egypt and the river Nile is already running through a portion of Egypt, as soon as they cross that river Nile, that means they're in the land before they even cross the Red Sea. That means they're already in the land of Israel. If they cross the Red Sea, it still means they're already in the land of Israel also. So according to them, they crossed the Nile, the Red Sea, and then they wandered around the wilderness for 40 years and then crossed the Jordan and went into the land. So that already shows you that that's incorrect, that's false. It shows you that if they was going east, supposedly into the land, then by this map, they will already be in the land if they crossed the Nile River. And they will already be in the land also if they crossed the Red Sea. They never entered the land at all until after 40 years, till after Moshe died. And then they entered into the land, our homeland, that he gave us from our forefather Abraham. So I wanted to point that out before we get started. So there's already a hole in that already. So, you can see, I hope that I pointed it out on the map well, if you can see what I'm saying. Okay, now let's get into the Nile River, and I'm going to show y'all what I was looking at. Let's see if y'all see what I see. It's okay if you don't agree with me, but I'm trying to point it out and hopefully give you a better vision of where the real Nile River is, which is called the Niger River. And I've been doing a little bit of study on this river. Now, this river actually runs across all of Africa from east to west, from West Africa to East Africa. On some of the modern day maps today, it doesn't show it like that. And they even tried to lie how the course of the Niger River went at first, because they tried to say that it ran out of Senegal, curved, and then went down into Nigeria, which was a big lie. And I'll show you when they did all of this, right? So let's go, let's look at the map. Okay. So we was looking at this map before, and if you look at this map now, you can see that the Niger River is going straight, this black line is going straight across West Africa, okay? It's coming from a four-head river over here, which it also tells you in the scriptures that the river Niger and the Euphrates River runs from out of the four-head rivers. And then it's interesting that it's also a four-head river on the older maps of Negro land coming out of West Africa. It's very interesting. So I've been doing a lot of research in that area too. We'll get into that later. But it branches off of these four rivers and runs all the way across West Africa and East Africa. As you can see, I'm pointing to you right here on the map. Let's go on a different map. Let's see. Here's another map also. Take a look at this map. This might give you a better visual, hopefully. Now, y'all need to go do your own due diligence on this also, because, I can only actually show you. But here's a more clear visual that it runs all the way across Africa, and it connects to what they call the Nile today. So this river Niger runs all the way from west to East Africa and connects over to the blue and white Nile. So this goes to some more information that I looked up. This is the most interesting part of it. I want to point this out. Let's read what some of the historians said in the area. This information that I found. Okay? I think this is it right here. Click on it, click on it. Okay, here we go. Now, this is a botanical exploration, right? It says the Niger and the Nile botanical exploration around two African rivers. I looked this up and it pulled up, on the internet. I'll leave it up so you all can read it. Hopefully you can read it as I go along. But let's read and see what they say about these two rivers, right? Just to get an understanding of what happened and how they hid the Niger River during the Berlin Council, which was the dividing of the land. Let's see what's going on here, right? It says, knowledge of the plants of Africa has been obtained by exploration and taxonomic study. While West Africa is dominated by the river Niger, Northeast Africa has the famous Nile. With its major branches of the white and blue Niles, this paper outlines more than 2 centuries of botanical exploration by individuals and organizations in these regions, relating them to the colonial and governmental history of each period, and links the value of the knowledge gained to the environmental concerns of today. Now watch this, right? I want you to see what the Europeans did about this Niger River. Before we go farther into anything else, the Niger and the Nile, the two great rivers of Africa north of the equator, lie to the west and east of the continent. Now, did you hear that? Did you hear that? The Niger River lies to the west and the east of the continent. So now when you're looking on the modern day maps today, it shows you that some shows you that the Niger River comes from West Africa from the forehead rivers. It only comes to a certain point in Midwest Africa, and then it stops. Those are on new modern maps that they change things around. And then on some of the other maps, the newer maps, they show you that the Niger River come out of Senegal instead of the forehead region, the forehead river region. It comes out of Senegal, curves up and goes back into Nigeria and goes back down to the sea, which is also false. So this is going into the original way that the course of the Niger River ran, which is from the forehead river from west to East Africa, all the way across the entire continent of Africa. Okay? That's what they just said right here. Listen. For centuries, even geographers thought that the Niger flowed out through Senegal. I just said this, right? Owing to the hidden nature of the Niger's debouchement with the Atlantic Ocean via a multitude of outlets in Nigeria. Wow. So what they're saying right here in this part, again, it was saying what I just said, right? That it was believed that it came out of Senegal, curved, and then went down through Nigeria, down to the ocean, which was a big lie. They knew that it didn't do that. But until these historians started putting it together and went and studied the Niger River themselves, Then voila, comes the true information about the Niger River. You know, where are we? Okay. They also thought the Niger and the Nile had a common source in the mountains of the moon. The real source of the Nile, however, was a mined 18th century objective as much sought after as a moon landing was in the mid 20th century. Okay, so they saying that the the direction how the Niger River ran was just as much sought after. It was just as much as important as the moon landing in that time. It was just as important. Now I know the whole moon landing thing is fake. Nobody never went to the moon, landed on the moon. I know all that, but they're trying to give you how important it was that they find out the information about the Niger and the course of the Niger, as to how it ran across Africa, you know, and putting out the true information about the matter, right? Let's see. If we look back on the past century, we see that this time span encloses most of Africa's colonial period. Before the 1800s, only a few scattered European trading posts located along rivers such as the Niger and Senegal could be reached by ships. This station was altered by the scramble of Africa, starting with the Berlin West African Conference of 1884 and 1885, when the European imperial powers scrambled to gain colonial possession. So look at that right there. So what they're saying is, during the dividing of Africa, that's when they changed the Niger River course, which means they gave you a fake course of the Niger River during the dividing of the land. Now, when we really understand scriptures, the scriptures said that they parted our land. They parted the Holy Land. Okay? If you really studying about the Berlin Conference in West Africa, the parting of Africa, that matches up with the fact that they parted the Holy Land, of which I am a subscriber and a believer now that the real Holy Land was in West and Southern Africa. It's a certain portion. So when they scrambled that land, they scrambled everything in it. They gave the land borders. They scrambled, mixed up the names, gave them different names, turned them into different countries, changed all the river names, changed the course of the rivers, and so on. So this is what they're saying they did right here. So this is why nobody don't understand what the true rivers are today, but now, however, we're piecing all of these things together now. Let's see, let's read a little bit more here. When European imperial powers scrambled to gain colonial possessions, by 1898, all of Africa, except for Liberia and Abyssinia, was carved up into colonies. Less than 80 years and 10 later, however, the colonies were becoming independent nations. Gold Coast became Ghana in 1957, and in quick succession, other British and French possessions gained nationhood, with only Portuguese territories resisting until the 1970s. Botanical exploration adapted to these changing conditions, and it is no accident that the main African herbora were established in the imperial cities of London, Paris, Berlin, Brussels, and Lisbon, which were the capitals of Britain, France, Germany, and Portugal, the states that control the African colonies. So look at that right there. I just wanted to read over this and show you that this is why when you look on maps today, they show you a fake course of the Niger River, that it comes out of Senegal, curves into Nigeria, and goes to the sea, which is a lie. And then they show you, and when you do find other maps of the Niger River, it can come out of the Forehead River in West Africa and then stops a portion in Midwest Africa. But it really goes all the way from West to East Africa. Now, I'm going to show you where the river Euphrates is too, so we can still get an understanding of this, right? Let's go back. Here we go. Let's read this right here. This right here is an etymology of the Nile and Niger River. So let's check this out right here. This etymology is by Rendell Harris, a historian that was in the area. So he did an etymology. Let's see what he says about this. It states that one could continue Rendell Harris' speculations by nothing that in accent Egypt, according to Burge, are interchangeable, so that Ra could also be La. Hence, for Rendell Harris, Niger, and Nigla now by Ellison of the G. So let's check this out, right? The etymology of the Nile and Niger River. Let's just see what he says about this. And now again, this is a historian. If you want to look up more information about what he says about the Niger and Nile River, just type in Rendell Harris, Niger and Nile River etymology, and you will get that information. You type this in on the internet, okay? Let's see. Rendell Harris, in spite of his speculations, was close to discovering the etymology of these names. There was a Semitic invasion of ancient Egypt when Sarah, 1675 BC, according to Euphrates, the Hyksos of Semitic invaders occupied Egypt for over a century, and that the use of the term Nile as a name for the river of Egypt dates back to this Semitic invasion. The word Nile is of Semitic etymology. So he's saying that the word Nile comes from the Semitic language, not from an Egyptian tongue, not from any other language, but a Semitic language. He's talking about the Nile, so listen to what he says, right? Thus, Broderick and Martin, this is the book, is wrote, giving you the pages about the book. This book was written in 1922, pages 122 to 108. It says he writes, Now, Nilus, Nil, the name of the river of Egypt. It is almost unnecessary to remark that these names are none of them Egyptian. So none of those etymology names come from Egyptian origin. Okay, now, Nahar or Nahel, a Semitic word signifying river, and by Burgess, it is thought to be the origin of the word Nile. Now, Nahar or Nahel. Now, that caught me and stopped me right there. That's the etymology of the term Nile, right? Which he's trying to tell you that the Nile and the Niger that connects to the Nile is the same river. It's the etymology of it, that Niger and Nile come from the same word. That's what he's getting to. And now, when you get to Nahel and Nahar, now when you read the Sefer Bible, and you go back to more the Hebraic words of it, it tells you all the time that they was crossing the Negev. It's always talk about Negev, 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 right? This is also the same word for Niger, Nahar, and Nahel, the Negev. This is what it's saying. Let's keep reading. Let's get a more understanding. Let's see. Brown states that De Langrade is also of this opinion, for he considers that the name Nile derives from the Semitic word Ne'el, meaning a river. Ne'el is kindred with the Hebrew words Nahor and Nargel, meaning river. I accept this derivation for the name Nile, meaning in Semitic just river. Eastern whites, drawn largely from Asia Minor and hence belonging to the Semitic group of languages, had penetrated extensive regions of West Africa. For instance, the diaspora sent Jews westward, and by 18 AD, Arabs had reached the Atlantic coast in the regions of the Senegal River. Let's keep going. Sent Jews westward by 800 AD, Arabs had reached the Atlantic coast in the regions of the Senegal River. It would be unreasonable to expect no repercussions on locality names as a result of this white invasion. So he's saying that it was the Europeans that went down in there and started changing the names of the rivers. So the river Nile that you see over today, it was Europeans that started changing these names and being in Semitic in origin. Wow. If now it is agreed that the sound H in Nahar or in Nahel can also be represented by the sound GH, then one realizes how close Rendell Harris came to solving the etymologies of the name Nile and Niger when he wrote, "When we made the suggestions which gave us Nigolas instead of Nigalas, we see the river Niger looking out at us from the upper waters of the Nile." Wow. And we remember that from the earliest times, the Nile and the Niger were believed to be branches of the same stream. That's what he said. So he's telling you that again, the Niger came out of West Africa, went all the way across West Africa and East Africa, and connected to the Nile River. So they was the same in one. So the Nile was branches of the Niger. See that? More than the Niger looks at us from the waters of the Nile. More than the Niger looks at us from the waters of the Nile. An early name for the Senegal River was Senegra. Thus from Nahel, I derived the name Nile. And from the dialectal variant Nagar, I derived the names Niger and Senegal. These two rivers were long regarded as one river, and so would share a common name, hence the similarity in the roots, Senegal and Niger. There is a river in, and then that's where it cuts, right? So if you want to get the rest of this information, you have to go and look up Rendell Harris. And it'll show you everything else that he wrote about, you know, the etymology of the Nile and the Niger. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. But again, if you really take a closer look at this river, you can see that the Niger is actually really the real Nile River. Now, a lot of you going to say, then where is the Euphrates? Now, let's go back on my map. We'll show this last. And let's just take a look at this right here. The Euphrates. Okay, this map that we're going to be looking at is a Negro land map. This first one, I believe, was made around in 1710, and it's actually from the French. The ones that was made after 1710 was a copy from the English countries. So I believe a brother had showed us already about the Euphrates River, but it wasn't much information about what map he got it off of. Now, I'm telling you that this Euphrates River is from the Negro land map, one of the first versions made that was from the French version of Negro land. Okay, right here in this square box, and inside of this square box, you see arrows. I got arrows pointed right under that. It's the Euphrates River. It's changed today, but you can see it's in the area of what they call the Kingdom of Judah. Judah on the Negro land map. Right here is the Euphrates River. Right here. Now let's go to a bigger version of the map. I'm going to show you several versions. Here's a bigger version right here, so you can see that this is a Negro land map. Up here, way above, at the top of the map, you see Negrete. Okay, that means Negro. Okay, Negro land. You can see that this is West Africa. And inside of this square box again, that I've drawn right here, I put the arrows pointing to the Euphrates River, just like you've seen in the other square box. The same area, Judah. And this is just so you can get a better version of where this Euphrates River was. Okay? And this Euphrates River connected, and it went up to the Niger River, the black line above this that's going all the way across. That's where your real Euphrates River was. Now, let's go to another version of the map. I'm going to give you several looks on this. Okay, here's another version of the map. Again, inside of the square box, I got the arrows pointed to the Euphrates River. Outside of the square box, above it, I wrote Euphrates River to show you the course of the Euphrates River as it goes upwards, connecting to the Niger. And if you look to the right, I got it circled. Inside of that circle is Niger River, just to show you that this is the Niger River. Okay? So the Euphrates River comes out of the Ghana, Benin, Togo area and goes upward and connects to the Niger. Now, anything past the Euphrates River going westward was the real land of Azareth. The real land of Azareth that the Israelites came out of. Went into when they came out of Assyria. But I'm talking about the real Assyria, not that fake Assyria that they made up today. The real Assyria was in North Central Africa. So when they came out of North Central Africa, they traveled down, they crossed the Euphrates River, and they went into a fatherland, Azareth, which was farther into West Africa, which was not our territory. Now, all our land from the Euphrates River, in between the Euphrates River to the Nile, in which the Euphrates River connected upward. So all this land from the Euphrates River that connects up to the Nile, and then going straight over to the east of Africa, all that land from west, east to down to South Africa is the land of Israel. So I just wanted to point that out in case anybody would ask. I don't know, y'all. This is interesting to me. I mean, y'all should do your own research behind this. I just wanted to point it out. Let's see if I got any more information on here. I don't think I got any more information on here about the Niger River. I don't got any more maps I can show. That's about all of the information. But I want to point this out also, and then we'll close this out. This is what I would say happened, you all. I've been doing research also on the area that they say is the land of Israel today, right? When I did my research, it said that Egypt also owned territory in the modern day land of Israel today, where they say Israel is at now. When you cross this Red Sea, as soon as you cross that Red Sea, that was also ancient territory of Egypt. So, if you want to, some of you might say that I'm just speculating, whatever, right? But this is what I would say happened. They came out of Egypt. Also, the land of Egypt. Now, the land of Egypt today, that was also the original land of Egypt, right? But Egypt had other territories that was across the Red Sea. So they came out of the Red Sea, out of the land of Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, but not going east, crossed the Red Sea coming west. And when they crossed the Red Sea coming west, that Nile River, I believe, was also the Jordan, or the Jordan. It would be the Jordan and the Sefer, but also the Jordan. Okay? But they didn't cross that area at that particular time. When they crossed the Red Sea, they wandered around the wilderness, right? Now, if you look on the maps of Africa today, right below Egypt, across North Africa and the Egypt area, and right here in this region, right below Egypt, that region is also desert, because it tells you that the wilderness that they was wandering around was also desert, which it was desert then. So they wandered around the wilderness, and they was not in the land of Israel yet. And this Nile River today, then it was the Jordan, or the Jordan. So they wandered around this wilderness for 40 years, and then they crossed the Jordan, which is called the Nile today, and then they went into the land of Israel westward, just like the scriptures say. That's what happened. So, if anybody haven't really actually done any research about it yet, also look up the fact that the Nile River of today, which is called the Egyptian River, they give it other names too, was originally that Jordan River that ran from out of Egypt all the way down through a portion of southwest Africa to the sea. And that was the Jordan that they crossed over, coming out of territory of Egypt, crossing the Red Sea going west. And they wandered in this territory before crossing the Jordan in the desert area. And then, after 40 years, they crossed over into the land of Israel. Now, I'm going to be doing other videos to show you how they changed names of all these different places. And let's see if we can get an understanding of it together. But hopefully, the information in this video was helpful to many of you. I don't know. Leave your comments in the comment section and tell me what you think. But again, do your own due diligence behind the matter. But anyway, Shalawam and much blessings.